Okay, I'd like to call to order the Ledyard Town Council Community Relations Committee regular meeting for January 6, 2021 at 6:30. At this time, I'd like to do a roll call. Bill Soms.
Present.
Andre Ingalls, Councilor Ingalls, sorry.
Here.
For the record, note that Councilor McGrattan is here. And also Administrative Assistant Roxanne Marr is here. At this point, as far as citizen comments, I don't see any citizens. Does anybody have a comment? We'll wait a half a minute, see if anybody shows up. I think they're really engrossed in what's on the television right now, most likely. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to the next issue, which is informational items that were sent out. We had an administrative assistant email dated 12/17 to the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation team on the status of the MOU. And we also had a reply from Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation team, Whipple email dated December 17th in response to our status of the MOU. At this time, I'd like to do a review of the prior minutes. Did anybody see anything in the minutes that was questionable, of concern? If not, can I ask for a motion to approve the minutes?
Councilor Soms moves to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 16, 2020.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Motion by Councilor Soms, second by Councilor Ingalls. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, 3-4, none opposed. The next issue is the objectives and goals. We talked about this already. I think we've nailed it. Just as a kind of a drop back on that, we talked about the community workshop, which is April 7th, 2021, which we're going to be dealing with social services. Talked about doing the public informational. We wanted to attract 20 residents or more to attend our informational forums. We're going to obtain feedback from the community relative to their concerns and experiences with town services. Not quite sure how we're going to get that done. Part of the process is I'm going to ask Roxanne if she will do a follow-up with Chief Rich and see if he's available for our meeting on the 18th to attend, to do two things. One is to tell us if we've had an uptick in people contacting him to see if for services. And the other part is going to be related to another topic that's coming up. The next thing I want to talk about is a discussion regarding the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nations. Is any of their old business? I don't think there is.
No, that's. Are you talking about the Memorandum of Understanding?
That's old business. I think that's behind us.
Right. Okay. Then that's it.
Okay. So for new business, a review of the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation team discussion topics for January 20th. There were 3 of them. One was, I'm going to hit the one was about the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nations team's response regarding the draft Memorandum of Understanding Assistance Program. Crystal Whipple from the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation took the perspective is that there's no need for the MOU if the tribal members who reside in Ledyard, not on trust land, are treated and serviced as every other resident of Ledyard. That, I agree with that, but I think what should take place is we should still, even if we don't use the Memorandum of Understanding, give that over to the people at the pantry so that they understand how those services are being, that this is what we're working on. It's kind of like it's kind of like, I don't want to use the word unsaid, but it aligns with exactly what the Mashantuckets and we talked about anyway. The Mashantuckets don't want something written down. So what is the general consensus on that? I think we should still have not so much a memorandum of understanding, but we should still have a document that talks about making sure that the tribal members who live in town are treated as every other resident. Outside of that, I'm not sure what else we could do, because they're going to come and talk about it. That's their position. We can talk about it when they come here, but is there a general consensus that we are going to need the memorandum of understanding, or at least some type of document given the past history?
I think the email thread is now part of the public record,
Right.
as is the mayor's letter to Lori Potter. I would, so I think there's enough of a trail in writing, and that's my opinion. To me, that is sufficient. That, you know, and that was the problem before, is that the guidance that we were operating under was verbal. It was not in writing. I would just like to revisit the mayor's letter back to Lori, because he mentioned, let me see if I can open it up real quick. He mentioned servicing tribal members who live in town, who would otherwise qualify, and who live on taxable property. Can somebody help me understand if that needs to be qualified? And what I really mean is, if somebody lives, for example, in an apartment, is that's not taxable property?
It is. If it's not tribal land, then it falls within the confines of my perspective is, if it's not tribal land and they live off of anything that's either, could be church property, it could be private property, but if it's non-tribal land, then that individual would be entitled to all the services that the town provides. And the premise for that would be that if I rent an apartment building someplace, the person who owns the apartment building is paying taxes. Mm-hmm. And that money is coming out of my pocket when I pay that rent.
Right.
So I'm paying those services still.
Right. So I guess I just wanted to understand what the mayor meant. And that makes sense. I mean, I know that, but I was kind of like, well, I didn't understand why he broke that out, because if they qualify, then they qualify, and that's part of it.
I'm not sure when he broke that out. I can't speak for the mayor, but I thought the intent was that if they were considered a resident of Ledyard,
mm-hmm.
which means you can't be on tribal land.
Correct.
Then you were entitled to the services.
Correct.
Okay, I think one of the other things I thought they were trying to do is say that if you were being serviced by the tribe and you lived on non-tribal land, you could only go one place or the other, which I don't think you can do that. Personally, I think it may not sound nice, but if I live in Ledyard and I'm a tribal member and the tribe's going to give me XYZ, because I pay taxes to the town, the whole 9 yards, then I'm still entitled to XYZ from the town.
Right.
Right.
So
I think
I agree. I think we all agree about that. You know, again, going back the 5 years, the reason it was being done differently was at the tribe's request.
You're right. Right. I think now that with the last thing that came in from Crystal Whipple, I think is perfect because it makes it very clear that if the person is on tribal land, the tribe is taking care of them. Yep. If they're in the town of Ledyard and it's non-tribal land, then then the expectation is that individual should be going to Ledyard for services. I think it becomes that simple. But the only question I would have is relative to the guidance side of that is making sure that that is conveyed to the people at the pantry, the social services side, because we have a lot of volunteers who do great work. Just making sure that whoever is running that part of the show is well informed on that, but I think my understanding is, and bear with me on this, I know I'm talking a lot, the person who is a gatekeeper is a town person. It works for the town who gets services. So if I drive up to the pantry, do I need to go through a process to get food from the pantry, or can I just go to the pantry and get food?
No, I believe you have to be vetted by the town.
Okay, so, which is perfect. That way, since the person at the town is given the guidance, then I think the issue will be resolved, because they'll know that, okay, if they're paying taxes to the town, or they live on town taxable property, and that includes that which is charitable land, like churches and stuff like that, non-exempt land would still fall under, in my opinion, town property, because it's not tribal land. Do we have a consensus on that?
Yeah, so to clarify, if you just drive up to the pantry and say, I'm hungry, I've got to have food, you won't be turned away. You'll be given food, and you'll also be strongly encouraged to go to town hall and be vetted. And if you come back and you don't have a card from social services that says you're qualified to receive assistance, you most likely will not receive food a second time.
That's fair. That's a very fair system.
And the training in that organization is very good, Mike. The communication is good. Mary Beth is in touch all the time. The volunteers are well communicated with. I don't think the message has been conveyed from Mary Beth, but I think that's all that needs to happen, and the volunteers will know what they need to do.
Okay, that's exactly my point. As long as somebody has informed them that this is where we're going, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
The other part is they wanted, Crystal Whipple, the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, wanted to talk about the policing. So going back to having Chief Rich, if he's able to attend, we're going to graciously ask him if he could attend to talk about, so they can, if they have any questions for him relative to policing since our last meeting, how things have been going. And that's also the opportunity for him to talk about if he's been given any additional people have come to seek him for services. So that's the plan with that. And then the third one, which she was seeking to understand the Community Relations Committee position on the education concerns. And I'm going to take a stab at this because sitting as a liaison with the Board of Ed's committee on, the Board of Ed has got to be given an opportunity to work through this process. It makes no sense for the Community Relations Committee to try and what I would call step on their toes and force an issue with them in the sense of saying, we don't like what you're doing or you need to improve something, because we don't have a problem yet, because they're still vetting out their system, working on resolving the things they need to do to improve their situation. That being said, my expectation is, for as far as this committee goes, is we have a back seat on this unless there's full-blown failure, okay? And that failure is going to come through us, is going to come into the town council in general, because people are going to just go crazy about if they don't like what's going on, and the school board has not been able to move this needle at all. But they've got to be given an opportunity to move the needle. You just can't assume that it's a failure out the gate, and it's going to take time. It's the school board, they've got a lot of stuff they got to do. Hiring people, as many of you know, is a daunting task, and vetting out and making sure you have a system that isn't discriminatory. Okay, and then the other part is just sitting as one of the liaisons is they've got to do stuff to attract people in to the school. They're going to want to teach at Ledyard, and so the demographics is getting younger teachers or older teachers to come to Ledyard. You got to sell. They've got to sell what they have to those individuals to come. So they got a lot of things they have to do. We've got a good school system, in my opinion. But if you're not from the area, you don't know the school, it may not be your first choice, because you've got everybody else is hankering to get you to come to their school, And given this COVID thing, we've seen a lot of teachers retire. And that being said, there's a lot of opportunities. So the school's going to have a little bit of work to do to get people to come on board. But the bottom line is, I don't think it's our responsibility at this point to be involved in that process besides being on as a liaison. And if they ask for input, you know, I'm like anybody else sitting there, I'm listening. If I can think of something that may help move the needle for them in a positive way, I'll provide it. But it's really their train to drive. Would that be an agreement?
Yep.
So I think we have to be a little more strong than that, Mike, because we have absolutely no authority over the school board, and we should not fall into the position of being conduit to the school board. Even though you're the liaison and you're the chair of this committee, I think it would be a mistake to become the conduit. And I would encourage the tribe to approach the school board directly about the committee with their concerns and with their suggestions. Because it puts you in an uncomfortable position over which you have no authority.
Bill, I probably didn't speak well on this topic. I have zero interest in touching anything related to the educational. So if she asks me, what am I going to do? I'm going to do nothing besides sit as a liaison, because the school board, it's their issue that they've got to fix within their parameters and their goals and their process. And coming to, just like you said, Bill, coming to me or coming to the commission, the committee, to try and resolve an issue with the school board, and they haven't exhausted, and I mean exhausted, even if it means you got to go to court or whatever, exhausted everything they could with the school board. I don't know what we could do besides say, yeah, a school board, this is what they're complaining about, which is something that they've already would have told them by the time we would say anything to them. So I have no interest, I have no expectation, I have no inclination to move an issue to the school board that hasn't come from the school board. Because even then, all we can do is advocate. Even in that case, we can advocate, but we have no authority to move that needle with the school board.
Yeah, as citizens and as counselors, we can advocate, and we should. But right. That's where we have to stop.
I agree completely. So would it be safe to say we have a consensus that it's not the committee's responsibility to resolve these issues at the school board in their hiring practice? Right. We can do it on an individual basis and advocate and stuff, but it's the school board has full authority and jurisdiction over those issues.
Correct.
Yes.
So I just think we need to communicate very clearly to the tribe that that is not our area of jurisdiction, period.
Yes. I will make sure we do that. And
and give them somebody to talk to on the school board's committee. Give them a name.
Yes. Mr. Farber is going to love me. Okay. Finishing that topic. This may be a short meeting.
Go with that feeling, Mike. Go with it.
Is there any other business to come before the committee?
No, sir.
No.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Ingalls, seconded by Councilor Soms. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 in favor, 0 opposed. See everybody. Thanks for coming, Mary. See everybody next Wednesday.
All right. Have a great week, guys.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye, Roxanne.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.